Oh, but it's good to
bro.
see you, bro. It's good to see
It's
you.
good to see you, man. Just hey,
Yeah.
listen. Exciting turn of events. Like Florida is now in the picture, and
Yeah, we talked about this for the listeners out there. John
yeah.
and I are really close, and we talk a lot. And so I'll just go ahead and say that I'm going to be moving to Florida.
How about that, man?
And
That's
I'll be
awesome.
probably doing that at the beginning of the year. John, you know the deets, but I'm still going to be with FHE and
Of
Shatterproof.
course,
It's
of
just
course.
it's just that I'm going to be in Florida,
That's
which
awesome, man.
I'm excited about. So for the
You know what?
listeners out there, I'm not
Florida
leaving
is
Shatterproof.
fucking bro. Florida is listen, you know, you can believe the hype on the national media about this right-winged,
Geez.
Nazi control. I mean, like, stop already. It's fucking Florida.
Well, the only reason, it's politics. And the only reason why
Exactly.
they're saying that is because, it's a red state. DeSantis is I think, is doing a great job down there. And of course they're going to attack him.
Yeah. It's a
Or
pro-law
attack the state.
pro-law enforcement, pro First Amendment, pro freedom of speech.
So who would want that in the United States?
God, it's just it really it's
crazy.
folks
It's crazy.
in Florida for the most part are thriving. Our sheriff's offices, our police departments, there's no vacancies, there's no defund.
I was talking to this. I was at FOP, as you know, I was at the
I saw you out there
in Vegas, and it was a great time. But I was talking to a lot of cops, obviously. I mean, those conferences, and they're just like, hey, I want to move to Florida. I mean, and I know a couple of cops that have quit their law enforcement career, maybe mainly in the Northeast, and moved down to Florida. And to your point, John, I mean, they take care of their cops, for the most part, and it's a pretty pro law enforcement state, just like Arizona is for the most part.
Right. No, but I'm excited for you to come south. We've gone to lunch, we've seen each other here and there. But you being in the same state, man,
that's gonna be awesome.
And the way I travel, I'm really looking forward to spending more time with you.
I am too.
For selfish reasons, right? It's awesome. So this is what I wanted to do today, brother. It's kind of fucked up, and if you're okay with it, and if you want to go on this walk with me, that
Absolutely.
would be cool.
I'm down, man. I'm an.
I know you are,
and,
but
and
you know what, bro? I think you and I have a unique. There are a lot of people, and I'm not blowing smoke, bro. There are a lot of people I thought about calling to have this conversation with. Suicide, right? I had a buddy of mine kill himself a few days ago.
Yeah.
And I got angry, got real fucking angry, and real sad. And then I said, I don't want to re-victimize anybody, because there are guys that have a hard time talking about this that are in our space.
Yeah.
And I know that, this is a topic that has carved its swath into your soul.
Yeah.
And so I thought maybe just two guys sitting down talking about something that is taboo.
Absolutely.
That love unconditionally and that want nothing for the best for the people in their lives. Maybe there's something somebody takes away from you and I talking about this, that shows them or empowers them with the value of waking up tomorrow and giving it another shot and not fucking quitting.
Absolutely, brother.
And if you're down with that, bro,
absolutely.
I don't have fucking anything written down. I just said I'm gonna call Pat, and we're gonna talk about some things. And I think, I'm not gonna be specific because I want to respect the family. But I think you know Olivia Johnson. Dr. Olivia Johnson.
It rings a bell. Yeah, I don't know her personally.
Blue Wall Institute. She's got this whole very proactive approach to not just suicide, but how we manage our lives. And her foundation of the belief is, like, she calls it the fatal 10. There are basically 10 life factors that, left unaddressed, put you in a position not to care for yourself and to potentially ultimately harm yourself. And that if it's if it's predictable, it's preventable. It's
Absolutely.
not a fucking shocker, man. Like, we know that if you don't take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, we know that if you use and abuse alcohol and drugs to cope, we know that if you all these life factors that if you're not staying ahead of, you position yourself for the spiral.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, and to your point, I mean, I was there.
Right.
You know, I think the hardest thing for not just first responders, but people who are struggling is, you know, well, a couple of things. I think that they're afraid or to reach out. I mean, that's the no-brainer. They're fearful.
Right.
They don't want to reach out, especially in the first responder space, as you know, because they don't want to be perceived as weak. They don't want to be perceived as not being able to suck it up. I mean, they're first responders. They're the
Right.
people, men and women, who are running in when people are running away. But I think the people I talk to, and you talk to a lot of people, and I just think, and I don't want you to take this or the listener to take it the wrong way, is they haven't hit rock bottom yet. They haven't hit rock bottom yet. You've been there. I've been there. And usually when I talk to people and they say, well, I'm not ready, or I can't do it because I got to go on vacation, or I got so much shit to do at work. And I try to say, look, all that stuff doesn't matter right now. You need to help yourself. But until I personally hit rock bottom, until I had a gun to my head, until I was contemplating and writing out and had a plan of my suicide, I think people are just going to keep thinking that they can do it on their own. People can't do it on their own when you're in that space. Maybe I guess anything's possible. But John, you're in recovery.
Yeah.
I'm in recovery. I mean, can you do it alone? No, you can't do it alone.
You
So
you need the care. So
you need the community.
My point, Pat, is, and I'm going to speak to specifics of this case. Every case is unique. Every situation
Absolutely.
is different. Everybody has their own set of life experiences that bring him to this place, this dark place. This person had called not only me, but a whole network of guys that had got him through what you and I would consider pivotal moments. Like, oh, this is fucking terrible. Let's keep an eye on him. Right. We got through
Good.
a wife's infidelity.
Yeah.
We got through being Baker acted. We got through having an RPO served against him, and we got through having him suspended and ultimately terminated from the agency. We got through all those horrible life stressors. Not just me, a close network of friends that he would reach out to.
Sure.
And he's dead.
Yeah.
And so I find myself saying, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it gets too, it just gets, I mean, you've been in those spots, John. I mean, I have, where it just becomes, the walls are closing in and suicide's the only option, for a lot of people out there. And unfortunately they take their lives.
But see, Pat, he was smart enough to reach out before.
Sure.
This was not an event happened. He didn't call anybody and he wallowed in it. And, that amygdala hijack, prefrontal cortex shut down, all emotion. We have been through that cycle numerous times. And
I just think, I mean, I don't know, obviously I don't know this.
No, of course you don't.
Poor guy who took his life and your friend. But I mean, I think once you said it, the emotions take over. You don't see a way out. I mean, I don't know if he was, coping with alcohol or drugs or anything like that. So that just compiles it. That you're adding a depressant on when you're already depressed.
Sure.
I mean, I think you get to that point where you're like, yeah, I've reached out before, but nothing can help me. This is my only way out. And when you get to that point, it's very hard in a lot of cases to come back because you're resigned to die and you've already.
I just fucking gave up, bro.
Yeah, you give up and
just fucking gave up.
And people don't, because I was there, obviously, but you start thinking about, okay, your problems are done, obviously, but the wake you leave and then the sorrow and the people that loved and cared for you and the friends, and those are the people that have to live with that, you know, thinking about what could I have done better? What should I have reached out more?
And Pat, for the record, I don't have any guilt.
Yeah. Well,
I
I mean, yeah,
no,
but a
and
lot of
no,
people, do. I'm just
nobody
saying in general.
in that circle.
Yeah.
There were people that walked with him for fucking hours and days, and that were so more involved in his life than I was, to help him, right? Because we care about each other, to help each other through these tough moments. And I thought his son, he's got a college age son. And I thought, Pat, I said to myself, and everything that I did, I framed like through that lens, like, you need to be, listen, I don't give a shit what's going on at work. Fuck work. You got to be there for your son. Your son is always going to need you, from whether he's a college kid, a new husband, a new dad, going through life. You'll always be needed, right? Absolutely. There's never a time that you won't be needed. And that seemed, in my mind and in his mind, to reaffirm that regardless of what was going on in his world, he knows that he needs to be there for his son. And so, like, I breathed a sigh of relief, like, fuck, okay, he gets it. Like, this is going to be shitty and it's going to be tough to go through, but I need to be there for my son, and my son is there for me.
Yeah.
And together we're going to get through this. And he just fucking bailed. He bailed on the kid.
Yeah.
He bailed on himself.
Did. And I just think it's, it's a combination, brother. I mean, it's the severe depression. It's the alcohol. It's, you talk to him and you thought you got through, but, and here's the reality. And this, as harsh as it might sound, you can't save everybody.
No.
Yeah. You can't save everybody. All we can do, John, people like you and me, is try to save the people and what I mean by save is try to convince them to reach out and get help. That's all we can do. We all want to save the world. We all want to save every single first responder out there who's suffering. And there's a ton of them, but the reality is you're going to get through some of them and you're not going to get through some of them, the ones that you can talk all day, but if somebody is resigned to the fact, and who knows what happened in the days and the moments leading up to this guy taking his own life. I mean, my assumption, even though I hate to assume, is he didn't see a way out. No. And he probably, and what I felt, John, when I was in those spots is, of course I was thinking about my kids. I was thinking about my siblings and my friends, but mainly I was thinking about my kids. And you know what I was thinking? I'm a burden on my kids. I'm an embarrassment to my kids. Here they are, I'm talking to my kids every day. I'm saying I'm going to kill myself and I'm drunk and they're embarrassed. That's what I had in my mind. So my guess, and again, I'm assuming, but I've been there where I was thinking I'm a burden on my kids. They're better off without me. Yeah. They're better off without me. They're wreck of a dad. Again, speaking the way I was thinking.
Sure.
Who's depressed. I remember calling up my daughter, brother, and my son and just saying, I'm going to kill myself. And the emotional turmoil I put my kids through. So I don't know what happened with, your friend and this guy, but I mean, for me, I can tell you, I mean, a lot of people think that I'm just I'm a burden, it's they're better off without me.
And I think what this kind of reconfirms for me, Pat, a lot of things actually, but getting back to Olivia Johnson. So her take on it is like, once we get to this point, there is no stopping suicide.
Yeah, exactly.
The slide has become the avalanche, and fucking everybody dies. And I'm paraphrasing Olivia, and I apologize for painting with such a broad brush. But her point is, we need to spend our efforts and time on proactive early intervention in all these areas of our life, because once we ignore these areas, our relationships, once we don't find healthy ways to build resiliency within ourselves, once we ignore our physical and mental health, then we create create an environment that stacks the odds against us when we're faced with the challenges we're all going to face throughout our lives.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and I think that's really where, there's a lot of initiatives out there that want to get to you when you're got the gun in your hand.
Mhm.
And to her point, once the gun's in your hand, man, it's fucking too late.
That's what I mean. It's, once you get to that point, I mean, I was lucky, I was lucky. I mean, I had enough, I don't know what it was. I mean, I think it was God's intervention or something, but I put it down. But that's a enigma. It doesn't happen,
No, it doesn't, Pat.
all the time. And you end up, like you said, the majority of the time, taking your life, or people take their life. But I agree with you. I mean, we need to, spend more time focusing on being more ahead of it, not waiting until people fall into the river. We need to be, and pulling them out. We need to make sure that they don't fall in the first place.
Right.
But ultimately, and you know this, John, ultimately it comes down to the individual, man. I tell you, I mean, is it fucking hard? Yes, it is hard. It's going to be hard. I tell you this, all that you've heard me say this. I mean, the real work, for me was after I got out of treatment. Okay, that shit is okay. I'm in a bubble down in Florida in Shatterproof, and I'm in a bubble, and the real work begins now. And I still work on it every day. Do I have bad days? Fuck yeah. But my good days overclips my bad days.
Yeah.
Because I have people like you in my life, and I have people I can call and, and say, hey, man, I'm having a rough day.
Right.
And that's the key, man. Pick up the phone. And you did it with this poor guy, and I know that, but unfortunately you couldn't reach him. And it sucks, man. It sucks. It's horrible.
Does that say something, Pat, to the way we are now? Like,
what do you mean?
Like, so, like, back in the day, it seems like as effed up as we were a little bit more resilient. We seem to internalize more now than we ever had. Is that, am I?
Well, I think, and I agree with that. I think there's more information out there. When you and I started, John, I mean, we didn't have the technology we do now. No. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have social media. So I think that compounds the issue. I mean, now when you and I first started, I mean, it was a different law enforcement world.
Right.
You generally had support all around the country. I mean, yeah, people have always not liked the cops, but I think you're seeing it more with technology. So I think suicide has always been there for first responders, mainly cop. I just don't think we heard about it as much because we didn't have social media. Right. Not that social media is everything now, but how many times, brother, do you get on social media and God forbid you see an officer who killed himself, or an officer, there was an OIS and he got shot and killed. I mean, it's 24/7, the news cycle. Sure.
No.
So I think that plays into it a lot now. Where people are looking and they're saying, I mean, look at the anti-cop sentiment out there, brother. We were talking about this. I mean, it's not everywhere, but you definitely just look at the news. Defund the police. When you and I were young cops, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Hearing about defund the police?
No. Yeah. No, fuck nonsense. No. Nonsense.
No, fuck no. But now cops are seeing that. They're seeing you can't put a thin blue line sticker on your car because that might offend somebody.
Yeah.
You're seeing all that. So I think that plays into a lot more people suffering. Yeah, infidelity's always been there. Cops are.
Sure,
I don't know
of course.
Tell you. And I agree. There were the people. I'm going to go out and smoke everybody. But I think the climate of law enforcement now, the fact that we're more educated now, and we keep getting educated on mental health issues and addiction. And I think that it's just a hodgepodge that just gets stirred up. Do people internalize more? Yeah, fuck yeah, because we know more now than we did 20, 30 years ago when you and I started.
What do you think? What do you think about, this is going to sound fucked up, the romanticizing of taking one's life? Do you think there's that plays, like, somehow I'll show the world the pain and the injustice that was, placed upon me? And is there any of that going on? Because part of me is like, who the fuck are you trying to hurt? Like, who's what statement by this act are you making? Or what statement do you think you're making? Or is that even a thing? Or
I think it
am
is.
I
I
just
think it.
fucking
No, I
flying
think
off
it.
the handle with
No, no,
that?
no. I think it is to some degree. I mean, especially with the survivors of somebody. You know, look at my husband or my spouse or my partner took his own life. He struggled so much with PTSD or whatever. I think some of that goes on, but I think the majority of people just want to put more awareness out there, and say, look, this is a huge problem among the first responder community, not just cops, but fire and EMS and corrections.
What about from the perspective of the person that takes their life, not the
Yeah,
surviving?
I think people are like, yeah, I think some of them, we don't know what's going on in their head, but I think that could be a possibility where, I'll show them, I'll get the last.
Isn't that a absolute? I mean, that is fucking bonkers.
Well, I mean, look at the world, but look at the world we live in today, brother. I mean, the whole world's going
I
crazy.
mean, like, if I want to get back at Mrs. Kelly, I'm marrying a Brazilian chick half my age. You know what I mean? I'm not.
But when you're at that state, bro,
right.
when you're at that state, you're having we're having a rational conversation.
Yeah.
When you're at that state, you're not thinking rationally. You're thinking,
you're right.
And especially you sprinkle in a little booze or drugs.
Yeah. No,
you're saying, fuck it. I'm going to get back to my wife, and she did this to me. I'll show her. Bam.
You know what, Pat? That unfortunately is a very accurate snippet of that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's just, it's frustrating for me because I've had people, that have reached out to me that I found out later on, killed himself. I mean, I had a good friend that shot himself that I used to work with, and it was devastating. And he didn't reach out to me, but he reached out to others. And it's kind of the same thing where you're like, what in the fuck, man? I mean, this guy was going to get help. But again, I mean, having been in those situations where, I mean, I'm much more empathetic than I ever was when I was a cop. And I can understand because I've had those thoughts and I've had those irrational thoughts where, you know what, fuck it. Did I think that way when I was contemplating and getting back to my ex-wife? Yeah, let's see if she cares when I'm dead. Just that weird.
It's completely irrational thinking.
Yeah, it's just irrational thinking. You're not thinking about the wake of devastation that you're going to leave for your kids. And your family and your loved ones, and you're not thinking about that. The only thing you're thinking about is me and what I want, and I'm suffering, so I want it to end.
Yeah,
and that's the unfortunate part of it. But for the people out there that are listening, to this, and you are thinking about it, man, reach out. I'm sure John's going to put some resources, in the show notes. Reach out. Doesn't have to necessarily be John or I. Just somebody.
Right.
There is hope. You don't have to take your life.
No, and I think our reaching out needs to be done so much earlier in the process, man. We as a profession condone unacceptable behavior, because abusing alcohol is like drinking water for many of us.
You're just killing yourself slowly over time.
We rationalize all sorts of unacceptable behavior. Having an affair, having a piece on the side, nobody's calling anybody out over it. You're actually kind of, it's that old, you're one of the boys, one of the good fellas. And if we can start by maybe changing a little bit of the culture of what you and I decide is acceptable, and then start modeling good behavior. I'm not talking about being a choir boy, right? I'm talking about modeling good behavior, self-care behavior. I think that's the way we get ahead of this. I think that's the way we beat it.
Well, you hit it, man. I mean, we talk about the culture. I mean, that's the biggest thing, I think. And every agency, John, has a different culture. It's cop work, or wherever. In Colorado, Arizona, it's the same. You go out there, investigate, arrest people, and community policing, all that shit. But every organization has a different culture. And you see some organizations that are really good at this, really helpful, and they provide all the resources to their people, and they reach out when they're you know, they're suffering and they're very proactive. Then you get other agencies that suck, that do a lot of this shit, that they talk the talk, and that's about it. And unfortunately, I think that's a lot of agencies out there that they're saying all the right things, you know, but, you know, goddamn, if you need some help, oh, fuck. You know, they turn their back on you. And I get, you know, and you know this, John. I mean, how many times do you get it? Do you hear? And I'm not talking about disciplinary issues and stuff. People get jaded when they're getting disciplined. I know that. But if somebody's reaching out, how many times do you hear, well, I'm suffering and my command staff doesn't have my back? You know, the higher ups, that they're not, and God knows what's really going on. But I'm talking about if it was cut and dry like that, black and white, I'm suffering, you know, I hear that all the time.
Yeah, we're dealing more from a liability standpoint than a caring standpoint.
Exactly. And again, I'm not talking about disciplinary stuff.
No,
you know, I talk to people. Well, you know, I'm in this IA, and they're turning back. You're in an IA, dude. Right. You know, I mean, come on.
There are consequences for not.
Why don't you
thing.
take your responsibility? And if you're suffering, own it. Take the responsibility of whatever shit you're going through. And you know, but if you need help, that's where I'm saying, if you need like substance or you need mental health, then the department should back you up. Unfortunately, I don't think it happens as much as we would like it to.
No, of course. And I think a lot of that is agencies not wanting to know the why. Like, because once we identify the why Pat is the way he is, why Pat did what he did, why John did what he did, then that requires action on the agency's part, because
that'd be horrible.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's, I think if we don't ask that question, we don't have to ever know the answer. And,
okay. That might have worked.
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago when you and I were coming on the job, when you'd go to a hiring process and there's 1,000 people there. I mean, how many people are we losing every day? I mean, did you see that, brother? That the whole town in Minnesota quit.
They just got up and said,
they just said, fuck it. We're going to leave.
We're not showing up tomorrow.
And I love what the mayor said. The mayor's like, oh, yeah, just blindsided. You're a dumbass, mayor. You're blindsided, my ass.
Things were so good.
You saw, exactly. You saw the writing on the wall. You should have seen it. That's your fucking job. And you know what? You missed it. And now you're playing deer in a headlight. I have no idea what's going on.
What is amiss? What could have?
Yeah. Good luck trying to get people to come to that agency.
Yeah.
Right
now. No, and I think, listen, you know this, Pat, you know, a lot of times we in this profession have the mentality that the Messiah is coming, the new sheriff, the new chief. He's going to save us.
The grass is green.
It's just, you know, if we just had a different command, you know, and you speak to this all the like, nobody is coming to save you.
No. And I don't say that to be a dick or to be, but you have to learn how to save yourself, brother. You did it. I did it. Other people do it. You have to learn how to save yourself, because I mean, I work in treatment. You've been through treatment. I mean, I could send people all the brochures in the world, get on the phone with them all the time, which I have in some cases. It's up to you, dude. I can't make that step for you.
So there's somebody listening right now that was going to turn it off, but the more they hear us talk, the more they're identifying with us in some things. What's the first step in saving yourself, man? Listen, I'm fucked up. I know I'm fucked up. I can't. What do I do, man? What do I do?
I think the first step, brother, is acceptance. You know, acceptance. And say, look, I'm in this space. I need some help. And I talk about this all the time. Put your ego aside.
Right.
Okay. Oh, but I'm a big SWAT guy. Special forces guy. Okay. That's great. But acceptance, I think, you know, you need to come to the realization
that needs a little bit of humility, little bit of
humility, and say, look, I am fucked up. I'm sure you got to that point. You reached out, you got help. You have to own it. You have to own the spot you're in, even though it sucks.
Right.
You know, I mean, when I went through my shit, brother, but I'm just giving you an example. I was devastated financially. I didn't have a place to live. I was living with my brother, and I was at rock bottom. But I accepted it. Not that I liked it. I said, okay, I'm in this spot. I can't blame anybody. And that's another thing.
Ownership.
Ownership. Well, the department fucked me, and the command staff, I had this IA, blah, 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 blah. Dude, come on. You played a part in
that
this.
doesn't matter.
You played a part in this.
Yeah.
Nobody's forcing a bottle into your
That's a tricky
mouth.
thing, man. Ownership, man, because when you look in the mirror and the person looking back is the reason why you're in the spot
Absolutely.
that you're in, that's a tough pill to swallow.
But you did it. Yep. I did it. Millions
Yep.
of other people do it. So the person suffering right now, listening to this, you can do it. But it has to come with you accepting, you owning the fact that you're in this spot by choices you made.
Yeah. There we
by
go.
choices you made.
Now we're talking, Pat. Now we're talking.
Nobody forced you into these situations.
Listen,
maybe
if you're the source of the problem,
you are the problem.
The beauty of it is that you don't need anybody else to fix it. Like the problem rests with you. Therefore, the solution rests within you.
Hence what you said, brother.
Nobody is part of this.
Nobody is coming to save you.
Right.
That doesn't mean that nobody loves you. It doesn't mean
that nobody's not willing to help.
Exactly. But ultimately, it comes down to you. And once you have that epiphany, like I did, I'm not saying my life's perfect and I don't have challenges. I'm just saying once I got to that point, have a little bit of humility.
Pretty perfect. It's pretty perfect, bro.
But what I'm saying is once I accept it, I'm fucked up because it's me.
Yes.
And not blame my ex-wife or not blame the job or not blame the finance, whatever you're blaming shit on. I mean, how do you expect to get help? How do you expect to get in recovery if you're not taking any ownership for it?
Yeah. No. And you know what, Pat? I think this segues right into something that I didn't even think about talking about with you, but it kind of burns my ass when people identify as I am a PTSD survivor. I am this. Listen, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I don't care. Listen, it's like, and this is
you're in recovery.
Listen, it's like, and I say this, I said this at a presentation, and I think the analogy really sat well with the group. I said, do you hear the garbage man complaining that the back of the truck smells like shit? Right? That's his fucking job, man. He knows that going into it, that I'm going to be picking up people's shit all day. And the back of the truck is going to smell like shit. So he does things to mitigate that. Maybe he has a little thing under his nose. Maybe so he knows if it's predictable, it's preventable.
Exactly.
He knows that he doesn't wear his clothes that he wore all day. He doesn't walk in the house with that shit. He takes it off in the garage, and he's got a place to clean up, and he puts different clothes on before he goes into the house. That's what the garbage man does.
Yeah.
We know that we are called on people's worst days, that we're going to see horrible things, sometimes have to do horrible things. So why are we shocked when we throw all this shit in a box and never talk about it, never discuss it, why are we shocked when it destroys us from the inside out?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So let's not be that guy anymore. Let's be like the garbage man who takes his shit off in the garage. Let's make it acceptable for you and me, for John and Pat, to talk about something on an emotional level like two human beings, so we can tag team this thing together as brothers, so we're not crying about some shit 20 years later as grown men or intentionally sabotaging our relationships with our family and friends because of the job. You don't know what I've seen. Yeah. Fuck off. I know what you've seen. I've seen what you've seen.
Exactly. And that's what, when people say, well, and I tell people this all the time, John, and I don't mean to be a dick. It's like, your problems are not unique.
No.
Oh, I went through a divorce. Okay, join the club. Oh, my ex took half. Okay, join the club. I'm financially real. Okay, join the club. I mean, you're unique, but your problems aren't.
No.
Now, the problem is that when you're going through all that shit, you think you're the only one that's dealing with it. And that's not reality, because you're not thinking correctly. And to get back at the people who, oh, I'm a PTSD survivor, that means you have PTSD. You didn't survive it. You might have been able to cope with it, because what people think is, well, I'm a survivor. That means I don't have it. Bullshit. You have it. You're still dealing with it. The mind just doesn't get rid of that shit. We can do stuff to help you kind of suppress that a little bit and kind of think of other things when those thoughts come up. But when you're saying I'm a PTSD survivor, what does that mean? I mean, what does that mean? You survived PTSD. You have PTSD.
I think that when we start,
well, I think some of it, brother, is for publicity. I think
like, oh, I'm fucking, oh, look at everything that I've been through. And like, fuck off. Listen, deal with your shit. Deal with your shit. And then once you figured out how to deal with your shit, you owe it to everybody else in your circle to help them figure out how to deal with theirs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think people that, and I tell my story, but that's not the only thing I talk about.
Right.
Because that can't be the only thing you talk about, in my opinion.
No.
I mean, if you're talking about your trauma and your PTSD and what you've been through and all yada, yada, I'm not saying that's not important. I'm not saying it's horrible. But if that's all the shit you're talking about all the time, you're missing the boat, because the only thing
how do we get better, brother?
That's what I mean. You're missing the boat. You're re-traumatizing yourself.
Right.
Every time you go out there and you talk about, well, I went through this, I went through that,
everybody goes, oh my God, what a horrible story.
I think when you go out there and speak, you do it. I think it needs to be part of your story to some degree, but that can't be the only thing you talk about.
Everybody knows what the problems are. We need solutions.
Well, exactly. And I see people like this, and I'm friends with people like this, that in LinkedIn and social, all they want to talk about is what they've been through, what they've been through. And it's like, it's horrible. But at some point that has to be in the rear of your mirror, and you have to like looking ahead, and you get some treatment, and it could be a part of your story. That's who brought you. That's what made you into the person you are today. But it shouldn't be every fucking post that you're doing. I see people like that, and I'm like, my God, move on.
Yeah.
I know that sounds harsh, but it's time to move on.
We have to not play into the victim mindset. Listen, we don't cope. We win.
Yeah.
We win. And the way we win is by putting the shit that happened to us, the shit we experienced, the shit we did to ourselves in the rear view, and we make a decision. We start making good decisions. We made bad decisions, and that didn't get us where we wanted to be. Now we need to start making some good decisions.
Absolutely.
To move forward, to realize a life worth living.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I tell people, and I know you do, John, is, okay, who the fuck are you surrounding yourself with?
That's important.
Are you surrounding yourself with the victims of the world? And I don't care if they're cops or not.
Right.
There's plenty of cops like this. Everything sucks. Everything sucks. Life sucks. I'm not saying you don't have bad days. Everybody does. But everything sucks. People suck. Life sucks. My job sucks. Whatever. You don't have to stay at your job. If it sucks, you can go somewhere else. But the point is who are you surrounding yourself with? I want to surround myself with people like you, brother, that pump me up, that are inspirational, that are motivational. Other people. I don't hang out with the people that everything is sucking all the time. I used to.
Sure.
I don't associate with those people. Because they're like toxic vampires.
Yeah, they're draining you.
They're draining you. And so if you're suffering out there right now, I'm sorry, there's help for you. But look who you were associated with, somewhere in your assessment. Okay, who is in my life right now? I mean, first and foremost, if you're in crisis, reach out.
Of course.
But at some point, you're going to have to say, who the fuck am I surrounding myself with? And unfortunately, there are probably first responders, if you're a first responder. And, it's just, I talked to maybe a handful of people I used in 20-something years I worked. Maybe a handful. I can count on one hand. Because the rest of the guys are great guys, great women, but they're toxic, dude. And I don't want to. And I'm in recovery. I don't want to be, surrounded by everything sucks. Everything sucks people.
If I spend time with you in a very selfish way, you need to add value to my life.
Absolutely. And I know for the listener, that might seem selfish. Yeah, fuck yeah, it is selfish.
That's
because
okay.
you only have this life.
Oh my goodness.
So you need to be selfish. And that's not saying you're a narcissist, but you
No.
need to be very, very aware of who you're sharing the table with.
Yeah. A lot of times the people in your circle right now don't want to see you get better because that'll force them to re-examine their
Absolutely.
lives.
Absolutely. Well, Pat, do you really need to get some help, man? I don't know.
Dude,
That's
you just drink. Yeah, you just drink. You're just like me. We just drink. We
come
don't
on,
have a
man.
problem.
Come on. You're exactly right, John. That goes back on then, because if I get help, if John gets help, if somebody else gets help, oh shit, the spotlight's on me right now. Everybody, the listener has people in their life like that. You know that.
Of course.
You know that. Well, the people that, don't want you to get help or don't want you to improve because goddamn, it makes them look bad. And those are the people you don't need in your life, man. You don't. The people in your life need to be pumping you up, be happy for you, John.
Need to be cheering for you, right, man?
Cheering for you. Be your cheerleader and say, John, you're doing a fucking badass job, man. You're helping a lot of people, which you are. They need to be not jealous of you, which is hard, but they need to be supporting you. Those are the people that I want in my life.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing because just when I think I got you figured out, man, you cease to amaze me. You always listen, and for the listener, man, when I started this couple years ago, I didn't know. I had some people help me with the technical aspects of podcasting and speaking and putting myself out there, but you were a mentor and a guiding brother.
Thanks,
And
brother.
You were that guy who just cheered me on, man. And everybody needs somebody like that in their life who just is like that they can connect with, that nothing they say. I don't ever preface anything I say with you. I just fucking say it. And we talk. And I think that's a beautiful thing. It's something that I've come to really appreciate about you.
Thank you, brother. And I appreciate you.
And so with all that being said, we talked a little bit earlier in the week, and I was going to share your next endeavor, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So Pat, veteran, law enforcement officer, has dedicated his life to helping the first responder community, is a regional, national director, liaison director. I'll just
You're promoting
me. Promotion at FHE, reaching out to all of our agencies, our brothers and sisters, helping them make the decision to do something more with their lives and to be part of their own solution with FHE's guidance. And you said to me last week, you're like, I'm going to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, what the hell does that mean? And so you are going back to school to be a clinician, to get properly licensed as a clinician.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you for sharing that.
Holy smokes, man.
Yeah, I'm just passionate about it, John. I mean, you're passionate about helping people, so am I. And I'm at a place in my life where I'm not old, but I'm not young, but I'm in that spot where I have the ability to go back to school. And it's like you said, I mean, this is what I want to do. I mean, I got a couple graduate degrees that, I mean, I don't, I'm not.
Listen, can I stop you right there?
But it's how we use them.
I've got an MBA as well. All right. And please, you wipe your ass with it. All right.
But this is what I'm passionate about. Man. And I'll be honest with you, brother, and the listeners I loved being a cop, but towards the end of my career, I wasn't passionate about it anymore.
Right.
I know that's, but I did it. I was good at it, just like you were. But I am passionate about helping first responders any way I can. So I believe the next step for me, like you said, is to become a clinician and be down at Shatterproof and hopefully be on the clinicals team down there and work with the community down there to continue to help where I can. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I started school about a month ago, and I'm in it, and it's interesting. It's fun. But it's the reason why I'm so passionate about it is the clinical degree is because I'm able to, well, I'm not a clinician yet, obviously, but I've seen the other side of being a patient.
Mm,
And yeah, I've been a patient, you know, so
right.
I think I have that unique view, not that I'm some unicorn that, you know, there aren't, you know, people out there that are clinicians that used to be patients, but I have that um, uniqueness where former first responder,
What a
I was a
perspective,
patient.
Pat. What a
Yeah. And
perspective.
so I can be, I think, more useful in that regard as a clinician, where you don't know what I'm been
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
You
I
don't know what
actually,
I'm going through.
actually I
Oh,
do.
the
Actually I
fuck
do.
I don't.
I was a cop for
Yeah.
a long time. So I know what you're going. I was sitting right where you're sitting right there as a patient.
That's
So
powerful, Pat.
I'm excited. You know, I'm
That's
excited
powerful.
about it. And
Yeah,
thank you for
man.
mentioning it, brother. I mean, that's it. You know, I'm still, it's a little way out, but
Nah,
I'm
bro, believe
excited.
it or not, in the blink of an eye, my friend, in the blink of an eye, you will have completed all the
I
requirements
know.
for your certification and your degree. And the folks there at Shatterproof, they're no dummies, man. They know what they have in you, and
Yeah,
and
I
they are
appreciate it.
they are fortunate to have aligned themselves with you, and now supporting this next
I appreciate it, brother.
evolution of see how we tied
I,
in CJ
yeah.
evolution, nice evolution of you, man. Yeah,
I
I think that
appreciate
that's
it, brother.
awesome. I
I
really
appreciate
do.
it so much, man. I
I
appreciate it.
I appreciate you taking the time today. And
Absolutely, bro.
listen,
I love talking to
this
you.
was a shitty listen. You know, we can talk, we can bash leadership and talk about what, and you know, and certainly there's no shortage of material out there to talk about what we need to be doing better in the law enforcement profession when it comes to leadership or the lack thereof, or what we need to be doing for different mental health initiatives. And but I think the hard topics, man. I think
Oh yeah.
talking about suicide and PTS and how we navigate these waters and how we stop that slide from becoming an avalanche. How we implement Dr. Olivia Johnson's Fatal 10
Absolutely. I mean,
proactively.
well, and these are, like you said, brother. I mean, these are discussions that people don't want to have, or some of them do, but a lot of them don't, especially first responders. I mean, you know, they know it's there, but they don't want to broach the subject because they don't want to, oh God, what's he going to think about me?
I
And
actually
so,
contemplated, Pat. I was like, oh, Jesus, John, this is on the heels of your buddy killing himself.
yeah,
Is that in bad taste? And then I said,
I don't think it, no,
no.
no,
And then,
I
well,
don't think
this
it's,
was the internal dialogue I had. And then I
and
was
you know,
like,
and you
no,
know
fucking
what?
now's the time to talk about it.
Exactly. You don't exactly. It's in, and I don't think it's in poor taste at all because this is on the heels of it, and you're not releasing names or deets or
No,
anything like that. But yeah, it's appropriate. When we going to talk about it? 2 months from now, when there's
right,
another news cycle and something else is happening. So
right.
I think it's appropriate, and I'm glad we've talked about it because it's very important. This should be a discussion that every first responder out there is having with their buddies or their friends or their
Right.
staff or whoever. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen a lot.
No. Hey, Pat, it's friggin' Saturday afternoon. You've taken time on your weekend. If you can leave the guy or gal, man, that's going to be hearing this Monday. They're going to be hearing this Monday. Um, leave them with something from Pat Fitzgibbons that you would like to say to them. Um, I don't, it can be about anything, man, but
Yeah.
they're driving around, they're on their way home, they're on their way in. Um, and they need to hear from somebody who's been around a bit and has some perspective. What would you say to them?
You're a good person. You are a good person. I know you might not feel like it. I know you've made mistakes just like everybody else. Your past is not who you are. There's always a way forward. And again, like John and I have talked about, reach out. You know, I know it's simplistic, but it's hard for a lot of people. Maybe you're one of them. You can contact me. John has my contact information. You can contact John. But that's the thing because, you know, you just, again, I get emotional talk about this because I had those thoughts of I'm a piece of shit, you know, everything's a wreck. You are not a bad person. You are a good person. You're just damaged. you know, to some degree. You can get better. So reach out.
Hardest thing we'll ever do is love ourselves.
Yeah. And the hardest battles we will ever have is not with the suspect on the street. Those are hard, trust me. But most battles are internal. The one between your ears, the brain. I mean, those are the hardest battles you will ever fight. So if you're struggling right now, I'm sorry, brother, sister, but reach out, ask for help, own it, and move forward.
There is a way forward.
Yeah, always a way forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pat Fitzgibbons. Brother, I love you. Thank you.
I love you too, my friend. And you are doing amazing, John. I have the utmost respect for you, brother. And, you know, you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thanks.